Well, hello, everybody. I'm Sharon O'Brien. I'm so glad you're with us today and ready for this complaint cleanse. I'm really excited to do this. I've been reading some different articles about how complaining affects you and those around you. So we'll get right into it. So first of all, I'd like for you to think about why we complain. We usually complain to express dissatisfaction in something, or maybe annoyance or grief. And often it's just to have a shared sense of dislike about something, even a camaraderie. So when people are together talking about something, you all want to feel like you belong together. So there is a sense of that camaraderie, even when it's in a complaining sense, maybe around the water cooler. And complaining is actually contagious. Sometimes if you think about it, somebody will come in to work or come into a room and start telling you about, oh my gosh, I got cut off when I was driving to work today, and goes into the story about what happened to them. And usually we listen. Sometimes we'll say, oh my gosh, well, wait till I tell you what happened to me. So it really does get into that mode of complaining that continues and continues, and another person might join and they tell you about what's going wrong with them. So it happens all the time to us. So venting is actually healthy for you. So when you vent occasionally, or tell somebody what's going on with you, a trusted friend or colleague, then that's okay. You don't want to keep things bottled up. But when venting becomes a constant complaining, that's when it can really become more of a problem. So what does that do to our bodies? There we go. So there's a science behind complaining. And what's really interesting is complaining seems to be almost identical to what happens when we are in that fight or flight mode. So our bodies are reacting as if it's stressed out when you are complaining yourself or when you're listening to complaining. So first of all, your body releases cortisol. And this is really a normal hormone that's released in the morning when you wake up, gives you a little energy. And when you exercise, gives you a good amount of energy for that too. But when you have more cortisol constantly being released when you're in a stress response, that is not good for you. And what happens is it can constrict your arteries and increase your heart rate and your blood pressure and increase your blood sugar. It also, when we're complaining, it also shrinks our neurons in certain areas of the brain. So specifically in the hippocampus, this is the area that's responsible for regulating emotions. So your brain starts to shut down in certain areas. And over the long haul, if this happens over a long period of time, it can actually shrink some of the gray matter in your brain. It also decreases your brain's ability to problem solve. So when you are complaining in that complaining mode, you're not really thinking about a better outcome. You're just going over and over the things that are wrong. So it actually can train your brain to look at things you're not happy about. So if you're in constant complaining mode, then you're looking for things. Your brain has said, okay, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? What's going on? So I want you to actually think about what happens to yourself when you're complaining. All of these things giving you that stress response, but then also think about the same exact thing is happening when somebody else is complaining. So your body really doesn't even know the difference. If you're listening to somebody complain, you're getting that same angst listening to somebody talk about something that's going wrong and something that they're irritated about. And our feelings start to become the same. We get irritated, we get annoyed when we're complaining and when we're listening to somebody complain. So what can we do about this? All right, let's take some steps. I have 3 quick steps for you. And the first one in a complaint cleanse is really to listen to yourself, to pause and take notice. So I want you to think about this morning. And even you can write them down if you want, but think about anything you might have complained about this morning. It might have been that, you were cold when you woke up and the blankets were off your bed and you were irritated about that. It could be that there wasn't cream for your coffee, that your clothes were wrinkled, your kids weren't listening. There might have been traffic that you weren't expecting. Maybe there's a line at Dunkin' Donuts. So think about what happened to you this morning specifically, and if there were things that you felt you needed to complain about. And I also want you to think about how you felt when you were complaining. And did you hear someone else complain this morning? And how did you feel when they complained? If there's somebody in your house that was complaining about they didn't like what they were made for lunch, or they maybe thought you took too long in the shower. If you hear somebody else complain, what happens to you? How do you feel? What's going on within you? We just talked about all those things that can happen to our bodies. So if we start to reflect on all of these things that might be little annoyances and things that you begin to complain about, then we start to grow a little bit with this reflection. So if you can just stop and notice and take a breath, that is the first step. So today, I'd really like everyone to really notice more than do anything else. Notice what's going on with your own complaining and what's happening with your body. And then if you hear somebody else complaining, what happens to you? The second step is deciding if you want to give this complaint any energy. What will this complaining do for you? So Megan Monahan has a great book called Don't Hate, Meditate. And in this book, she says to imagine that every thought you have is either feeding a flower or feeding a cactus. So thoughts based on love and kindness feed the flower, and those based in fear feed the cactus. So again, venting is healthy and can prevent bottling up and really pushing down your emotions. But it's a matter of if complaining is going to result in anything different for you. Are you going to change anything or do anything about this complaining? And that's what you really have to decide. Do you want to give it energy and talk about it more, or do you want to do something about it? And step 3, if you decide your complaint deserves no energy, which hopefully you do, then you're going to practice gratitude. So having a gratitude practice on a regular basis trains your brain to look for those things you're grateful for. So we talked about before, if you're complaining a lot, more complaining leads to more complaining, and it's more negativity. Whereas if you have a gratitude practice, then your brain starts to look for those things that are positive. And if you think about a time when someone comes in a room and is excited about something and hopeful and starts talking about what they're looking forward to, that is a great way for you to take somebody in, and you'll feel, again, the positivity is contagious and you're excited about whatever they're talking about. Whereas if somebody came in a room and they're more negative and this is what's going wrong and we have issues, and then it starts a meeting off or starts a conversation off in a bad way. So let's again take a pause and think if we can turn that around a little bit. Positivity is definitely contagious, and when somebody decides that they want to start to talk positively about something, it's going to change what's happening in the room for sure. And lastly, we have some great little quotes here. And so today, so for those of you who can't see these on your phone, or if you're just listening, the first one is, you can complain that roses have thorns or rejoice that thorns have roses. And the second quote is, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. Don't complain. And the last one I think is almost the most important one. You can complain all you want, but you are responsible for your own happiness. So for today, I really want you to notice and be aware of complaints, both yours and others. Tomorrow, I'd like you to try to pause and decide if you want to give any energy to those complaints. Taking notice is so important. Deepak Chopra has said that whenever you feel like you're criticizing or condemning or complaining or playing the victim, the first thing to do is press that pause button. If you do that enough, you will realize the range of options in any situation, in any circumstance. And it's actually infinite. So the rest of the week, continue to try to practice gratitude instead of practicing the complaining. And every time you feel that urge to complain, stop and come up with something you can do about it instead. Have a great day, and we'll see you hopefully in one of our next sessions for the Workplace Wellness Week.